What up YouTube, Mike here from Foundation BMX and welcome back to the channel. I want to start today's video with a few thanks. First and foremost to anyone who's watched episode 1 of our podcast with UK legend Owen Clegg. Thank you for the feedback, thank you for your time, and I hope you really enjoyed it. It was a real privilege to get to sit down with Owen and talk with him, especially because he's a rider that obviously I've crossed paths with many times over the years, and locally such a great guy. So shout out to Owen for coming across and doing that. Like I say, really pleased with the outcome and really pleased with the feedback we've received on that video. Secondly, apologies, we're a bit behind on the uploads, just a couple of crazy weeks at the office and just meant that I'm really strapped for time this last couple of weeks, but we're back on it here today. Thirdly, thank you to anyone who's placed an order with us on the website. We've had a pretty busy couple of weeks. Busy in our sense, I guess, not in the dramatic sense of shipping thousands of orders, but you know, every order counts for us. So massive thanks to anyone who's placed an order as a consequence, because it's kept us extremely busy and that's what it's all about. Finally, before we crack on with today's video, I just want to give a huge thanks and shout out to Rob Andrews from More Large. It's become apparent recently that unfortunately More Large, who are one of our distributors that we buy parts from, and they look after the We Make Things catalogue, which is We The People, Eclat, Fuse, Salt Plus, Radio. That the company's gone into liquidation, and unfortunately that's meant everyone's lost their jobs, including Rob, who's the BMX manager there. And Rob has just been a constant in our story in the last sort of definitely 10 years at More Large, because he's just been so helpful across the board with everything that you could be, the guy that always answers his phone no matter what time of day it is. So shout out to Rob, and I'm sure that it won't be the last that we see of him, no doubt. And hopefully, in fact, not to leave too many clues as such, but we have spoke to Rob about doing the podcast, so with what's happened recently, I guess maybe that'll be sooner rather than later. Anyway, that's the thanks and a few notes. Let's get on with today's video, which is about looking at the We The People Hybrid Freecoaster Hub. Now, I know we used to do quite a few of these videos, having a look internally at different hubs, etc. And that's kind of the reason that I was doing this today. It is kind of ironic in some sense that obviously the announcement of the situation at More Large, and this is a More Large product, or We The People product, but they're the distributor. So kind of strange that it should be that way. However, today we're going to take a look at the We The People Hybrid Freecoaster. Now, the hub gets its name from the fact that it is a free coaster that can be converted into a cassette hub. Now, I know in the past there's been a few of these hubs on the market, various different designs from various companies. However, they're fundamentally quite much of a muchness that the internals tend to work kind of the same. So we're going to take a look at this today. This is the galactic purple version of the hub, which really is a sick colorway. Really into that. So yeah, today we're going to take one apart, have a look inside, dissect how it works, and yeah, so let's crack on with that. So to start with, you're going to have to take off the drive side axle nut and washer. Now, these hubs are fairly good for taking apart in one sense, because I guess it's kind of built like a cassette more than a free coaster in one sense. But basically, once you've got your axle nut and washer removed, you need to remove this cone nut, which I believe is a 24mm cone spanner if you've got one. And if you haven't got one, like me here today in my office, we're going to have to use a adjustable spanner, because I've chosen that tool because I'm pretty sure most people will have one of those. So adjustable spanner, and you're going to need a 6mm Allen key. Why do you need a 6mm Allen key? Well, because as with a lot of hubs these days, there is a 6mm Allen key slot in the end of the axle, meaning you can basically place your 6mm into the end of the axle, and then now you can keep that axle still while you try and remove the cone nut. Now, FYI, these cone nuts can be really tight, and that's the same with most hubs. Once you crack them loose, they're dead easy to remove, so don't worry about it after you've cracked it loose. However, it will take some manhandling, and it's far easier as a wheel, which in most instances, I'm going to presume you guys will have it built into a wheel already. So 2 seconds while I crack this one off. There we go. Usually pretty quick at doing that. Ba-doops. Anyway, basically, once you've been able to remove the cone nut on this side, you need to loosen that off, and you'll notice the driver will start coming with it slightly. Don't worry about that. It's because the actual driver has a spring pushing against it to create tension for the mechanism to work. So basically, remove this off all the way, and then move on to the next part. So once you've managed to get your drive side cone nut loose, take it all the way off, place it to one side, and if you pull the driver away from the hub body, it shouldn't take very much persuasion whatsoever to pull him completely out of the hub. And as you look at the driver, you'll note it looks very much like a cassette driver, only the pawls are completely flat. That is for a reason. There are magnets under the pawls, and that's what keeps them down when in free coaster mode. This here is the engagement plate, if you like, which basically engages the hub when you go to pedal. You'll note there's 3 notches on it, and inside the hub you can see there's a spring there which basically just pushes the driver, or should I say the plate, towards the driver to give you that engagement. When the plate's installed, like we've just taken it out, you've got the 3 points facing outwards. That is free coaster mode, and that there would be how you would run it if you wanted to run it as a free coaster. However, if you flip this plate over, you'll see there's no more points, it's just a smooth surface, and that smooth surface is how you would run this hub should you want to do it in cassette mode. And you would simply install into the driver the springs that are supplied with the hub to make the driver just like a cassette hub. Now, on the driver, as I say, the plate has got these 3 notches, and when you place the 2 together, you see when you get the engagement, or where the engagement comes from. Once you go to pedal, the plate touches the pawls and pushes them up. Again, you've got the plate here with the 3 notches on the outside, and the actual centerpiece of this plate comes out, and this is how you can actually regulate the slack on your free coaster. There is 3 gaps, a sort of low, a medium and a high, and depending on where you place that spacer will depend on what slack you get. As you can see just there, how the middle piece just moves around. This washer on the back of the driver does come off, and just be careful with it because it's fell off a few times while I was messing with the hub, and you need to make sure that goes back between the drive plate and the driver just to create some separation when you're reinstalling your driver and putting it all back together. But yeah, once you've done that and you've put it all back together, make sure that you're tying it up and give it a good crank with a cone spanner or an adjustable spanner and an Allen key, just to make sure that you've got real good pressure against the spring in the hub, because if you haven't, it will not work correctly. You need to make sure that driver is all the way in with pressure against it. But yeah, that's pretty much how it works. And that's pretty much it. There is very little to the hybrid internally, which is actually quite a good thing because overcomplicated things can go wrong. And if I'm honest, having a look around at what other style hubs have, or should I say hubs that have had a similar internal to this over the years, most of them have done pretty well. I had an Ezra free coaster quite some time ago, probably 10 years ago now, and that, if you don't know, Ezra is an offshoot of Eastern, and they had a hub which worked on a very similar system, and I ran that hub for probably 4 years without any issues whatsoever. So yeah, this type of free coaster is pretty good in the sense that it's fairly maintenance free. Unlike the clutch based systems that we've seen before, they don't need any regular internal greasing or the little prongs that are on the axle on those clutch type hugs that do wear out from time to time. You won't get that on one of these. So yeah, not a bad design all in all. We've got a couple of riders actually ourselves, so Jack Hall and Marc Hardman, who represent the shop. They're both riding hybrid free coasters, but actually as cassettes. And for them, they actually said, when I asked them why they were having the hubs, they were just like, well, it'd be nice to have the option to have both. And even though they both run cassette, having the option to have a free coaster if you want one with very little hassle is, I guess, quite a bonus. Not only that, but the hubs are on our website at the moment for $149.99, which, as far as a rear hub goes, is really good money, really competitive. It comes supplied with drive and non-drive hub guards in nylon, so you get 2 plastic guards as standard. So yeah, all in all, really good hub. Now, just as a word to the wise about getting the cone nut off, if you are struggling, there is a bit of a hack which I'll show you just now. Basically, I've got a frame here, and this frame I've just installed the hub on the outside, as you can see, so it's just on the opposite side of the dropout. So I've tightened it in, and from here it's really easy to get decent purchase on the cone nut because you've got the hub in place. It doesn't matter if it was built up as a wheel, it'll work exactly the same way, but it just alleviates the need to use the 6mm to hold the axle still. So just as a bit of a hack for you there, if you're ever struggling to get a cone nut off, anything like that, install the wheel or the hub on the outside of a frame just like this, and it gives you far more purchase, if you like, on the cone nut, and you can just concentrate on the cone nut if it is really tight. But that's it for today's video. So I hope you've enjoyed it. A little look at the We The People Hybrid Freecoaster Hub. Like I say, both of the black and the galactic purple hubs are available through foundationbmx.com on the website right now, $149.99. I'll put a link in the description below so you can go and take a look at it on our website. And if you've any other hubs that you can think of that you'd like us to do a similar video like this for, them, by all means, leave us a comment and let us know what hubs you'd like us to take a look at, because if we've got them in stock, or we can get them in stock fairly easily, then by all means we'll look at doing that in a future video. Thanks again for watching. Thanks again for the support on the channel. Again, thanks for all the support we've had with the podcast. That's been amazing. Our subscriber base has just gone, galactic for us in comparison to where it was beforehand. So shout out to any new viewers who are watching videos from our channel, and we will have a new podcast coming in the next fortnight. Thanks again for watching. I'm Mike from Foundation. Peace out.
Break.